Hello everybody and welcome to Toyah at Home. 2nd of September. Where has it gone? This has been a most amazing, fantastic and challenging year, but it's been a year of huge growth for myself and for my husband, Robert Fripp. Tonight we have our last festival of the year, Witton Castle up in County Durham, where we're playing Storm the Castle. Robert will be with me, even though I think it's billed as a Toyah show, but this is our last show before we start the Sunday lunch tour at the end of the month. It feels like a new year to me. It's as if this is New Year's Day. Why? Well, everything is brand new as of after today. It's the beginning of Toyah and Robert Global, because next year we're spreading. And at Christmas, we're going to be readdressing our social media in that we're going to become very festive specific. We will have the time we need to do the 12 days of Christmas, to do Sunday lunch, which I think is going back to weekly as of December. And next year, well, we are working everywhere, not just in the UK. So it's a really exciting time. Now, what's happened this week? Well, I'm going to have to look on my trusty computer. Yes, I have been putting vocals down on a new sci-fi drama, which is a radio drama, which is absolutely phenomenal. I am going to be unveiling the new remastered Toyah Changeling album and its vinyl and certain other wonderful aspects about this remarkable release. But first, we are going to play a very fun version of Castaways off the Changeling. Enjoy.
Right below me, as you can see, is Toyah. She's going to play another track off her new LP called Changeling. This is called Castaways. Let's welcome back Toyah.
Little
absolutely incredible song off the Changeling on a beautiful programme called Get Set for Summer 1982. God, I remember it. It was a fantastic summer. Now, I promised you the unveiling of the new remastered Changeling, release, I believe, the 29th of September. It's days away. It's a beautiful re-release. When you open up your beautiful vinyl, you will get a lyric sheet with all the lyrics on. Now, for those of us who remember the release of LPs way back in the late 70s, my generation I'm talking about, 80s and 90s, because I still think LPs were being released even when CDs were coming out. It was so fantastic to own this beautiful, physical, tangible possession. Now, I know my first CD was the Changeling, and we were so kind of doubtful about CDs because we felt very, very precious about vinyl and albums and the way people collected these, the way they collect their favourite books or their favourite coffee table books. These were part of people's collections back then. So this is what you get on the inner sleeve. You get your lyric sheet, but then you get this very beautiful sleeve containing this neon pink vinyl. And my goodness, that is neon pink. It's extraordinary. It's beautiful. It's a celebration of my pink hair in 1982. So this is what you will be receiving on the 29th of September when you have pre-ordered or you go in and buy your Changeling album. So I'm going to be answering some questions for you now. And my first question is from Chris Lynn. Chris, thank you for this question because you are a writer and you ran the Intergalactic Ranch House fan club way back 1980, 82, right through the 80s. And you are now a very well-established science fiction writer. To have this question from you, Chris, it's good because it touches me right there because I think we've shared our creative frustrations over the decades. So Chris, given how very successful 1981 was, there must have been a lot of pressure to get the next album out the gate. Do you think you were given enough time to write and workshop the songs? Or did the increased pressure help focus your energy and creativity? By the way, the end result is certainly a triumph. It's a really great question because what you've got to remember, Joel, myself, Phil Spalding, the team, we started this album literally 1 month after the Drury Lane Old Grey Whistle Test live special. Now, retrospectively, that wonderful cure-all kind of vision that we have in retrospect, we should have spent a bit more time, I think, utilising and exercising the goodwill that came from the Old Grey Whistle Test live special at Drury Lane. It had 12 million views and it was almost disposable, very much like social media today, where everything just happens in a flash and whoop, gone onto the next thing. I think we should have just spent more time working with the audience, working with products from the Drury Lane experience. I was on top form as a performer from December 1981 right up into 1982. I was like pin sharp in what my live performance should be. And I think we should have just gone on tour and worked the material, but we weren't given that opportunity. We had to go straight into writing, giving and developing demos for Steve Lillywhite to think about the production. We weren't able to work any of the material live in front of an audience, which is what we did with Blue Meaning, Sheep Farming and Barnet. And admittedly, we didn't have a chance to do that with Anthem. Anthem was written in the studio, but I really missed that organic process of thinking, I like this lyric, but does it keep an audience's attention? I like this chord change, but does it draw the audience in? A great barometer for me when I'm writing is if the audience is engaged, they're on the beat, they watch you, they're on the beat, and you know that you have a winning formula at that point. So your question, Chris, resonates with me because certainly it was challenging. Marcus Agar, thank you so much for your question. Now, Marcus was my PR person throughout the late 80s into the 90s, did a lot of PR for the shows that I did with, Friday Forever, that wonderful band from Salisbury, and also for my stage productions. Marcus, you ask, how was the writing process for the Changeling? Did you go into the studio with full set of lyrics, or were you writing as you were rehearsing and recording? Some of the writing was done to going into the studio. Brave New World, I believe, even though I finished off the chorus, I remember in a hotel in Bristol, I believe the Holiday Inn, must have been around 1981, I came up with that chorus lyric. Castaways, I remember this fascination with people going out into space to colonize. And I can remember writing that in my writing room at my apartment in where was it? I always get this name wrong. Near Hornsey Rise. Hendon. 2 H's, not a chance in hell with my brain. Hendon. I was in my writing room in Hendon and I came up with the idea for Castaways. Also, Joel Bogan and Phil Spalding came up with adding a creative line. Every verse or every chorus, there was an added 4 bars. So it extended the chorus right through to the end. Every time the chorus repeated, it was a phrase longer, which meant that I could build a story really brilliantly around that. There was some writing that went on while we were in the studio. The Pact, even though I came up with the majority of the Pact and Joel and Phil Spalding came up with the majority of the Pact before we went into the studio, I had to just work things so that they flowed better once we were in the studio. The Pact had that particular thing going on. Steve Lillywhite gave a lot of input into flow and meaning and reducing the length of syllables in songs. Life in the Trees, I feel Steve Lillywhite contributed to immensely with his style and with his sound. So a lot of that honing happened in the studio. A very organic song to write was Run Wild, Run Free. Again, I came up with that in Hendon in the morning, wrote the lyric, knew exactly what I wanted to portray and put over, and then we honed it in the studio. And luckily for me, Simon Darlow came in on one of the sessions. Now, this was 1982, and I don't think I'd seen Simon in person since about 1978. So it was just wonderful for him to walk into the studio. Very much a friend and ally, like Nigel Glockler was to me. And I suddenly felt relaxed in his presence. So thank you for that question, Marcus. It's a really great question. The Changeling was slightly fractured in how it came together. Jean Stobart, you ask a wonderful question and I get asked it a lot. That's not a criticism, but it's slightly, I have to explain how these creative processes work. So you asked, quite rightly, a lot of the Changeling songs seem as if they were written for a dark musical, almost like Pan's Labyrinth in style. Absolutely correct, Jean, because I just love science fiction and I love otherworldliness. Would you ever consider, you ask, or would you like to see your music life put onto a stage production? Jean, I'm only laughing because that would take about 50 million of investment and I would have to have a far greater following than I believe I have. I get asked it a lot. Sadly, I don't own the rights to my own materials, so that would be up to the right owners to be prepared to let the material be used. And I think Cherry Red would do that. But the commitment I have a very close friend who's done Sunday lunches with us here, who's been developing a musical for 10 years, and it's in a really good place now. But I know step by step what he's gone through. Now, I have to get on and have a career. I have to get on, hopefully write new music. I'm on the road all the time. Unfortunately, doing all the band accounts all the time and all the press. So I would rather keep my social media going to the level it's going at now, which I think would make a far better present day musical. If people decide to make a musical of me, it's going to be Sunday Lunch and the process of Sunday Lunch and Robert and Toyah being locked in a house during lockdown. That is the musical. I would never say no, Jean, but the time it takes, the dedication it takes, the money it takes, if you just want an insight into how expensive and how hard working it is to get up to making a movie, or get up to owning a football club, or get up to just putting a musical on, just watch Ryan Reynolds and Wrexham on Disney. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful exploration and journey into how much work it takes just to get one thing done in this world. It's a fabulous question. Perhaps if I retire from live work, I might have the time to focus and give the time an idea like this deserves. So Jean, that was a fab question. Thank you so much. Wonderful Davy Fleming, Dreamscape. Davy, I am eternally grateful to you for your hard work and your dedication to the Toyah existence. Now you ask, Davy, the Changeling and Brave New World, the imagery still looks otherworldly and ahead of time 40 years later. How did you feel when you first saw the stunning imagery created without digital trickery when you look back? Davy, it was everything I wanted, especially the video to Brave New World and the photo session to Brave New World. Now, the photo session, I wish I could remember who took that picture. I think we've been trying to find who has ownership of it for the last 20 years. That photo session was magnificent. This was a little more challenging. The photographer, world-renowned, Michael Clark, perhaps Darren could put a banner up of the photographer's name. So very limited time to get the actual shots. I believe he shot in something like 16 or 35 mil, but he wanted a very specific look, which meant holding for a very long time. Then he was going to hand tint. Now, I was never allowed, I don't believe, to see every shot. I think the photographer showed me selected shots that worked for him. Now, since Craig Ashley and the team and Alan Sawyers and the team at Cherry Red have been putting this together, I have seen unseen shots from this session. Now, there's one shot that if I saw it, I would say that is the front cover. It's not as down of heart. I'm actually crawling down the rock and looking out. And it's a nod and a wink to Roxy Music, Jerry Hall. Now, I would have gone for that in a blink of an eye because it was a cultural nod and a wink. And slightly more mysterious. It didn't say what my mood was. It was slightly more Mona Lisa. So, Davey, you asked how I felt when I saw the non-digitized, non-touched up imagery. I was thrilled. This was the end of the day of the Brave New World single session. And I said, come on, let's go outside and make this organic. Let's see what happens. And outside in an alleyway was tons of rubbish piled up in dustbin liners. And I said, okay, we're going to throw lots of old images of me into this rubbish, scatter them. And I'm going to throw myself on the rubbish. You know, kind of Phoenix from the flames, new beginning. So very, very happy about this imagery. And totally in love with the Brave New World video. It's beautiful. Thank you so much for that question. Colin Timothy, what inspired the look for the Brave New World video? It's fantastic. Well, the whole theme for this project was the Changeling. And what I mean by the Changeling is that a human being swapped with a fairy or a fiery being. The idea that being out of place in the world. There's a very good horror book called Fairy, which is the old world spelling of fairy, where these fairies are warriors. They're quite violent. Yes, they're at war, they're tribal, and they come out from the woodlands and fight the humans. And I kind of chose that imagery for the Brave New World video. I remember when we had the creative meetings for the Brave New World video, everyone was 100% behind me. I'd won the 1982 equivalent of the Brits Award for Best Female Singer, and this was a great time for me as an artist. And at the meeting for Brave New World, I said I want to be seen coming out of the sea completely dry. I want to go through apocalyptic landscapes. I want to find a changeling child who's lost in human society and return to the sea. It did. We made. It said exactly what was on the can. This is what I wanted. Very high budget video for the time. It was £32,000, which was one of the most expensive videos. But let me put this in perspective. Within, I think, a year, 2 years later, Michael Jackson made Captain EO for $10 million. So video was very important, and its importance was growing. We never quite believed that it would take over from the power of TV, but it did, thanks to MTV and people wanting imagery to their favourite songs. So very, very happy, Colin, with how Brave New World turned out. Heath Malcolm, you ask, as well as sounding fantastic, The Changeling is very visual, both in terms of the artwork and the descriptive lyrics. As a young teen in 1982, I always hoped there would be a video version of the whole album release. Oh, me too. Which Changeling songs would you like to have made videos for? Well, video albums, if you take into account Brave New World was made for £32,000, you can imagine what a whole album would have cost there, Heath. It would have been kind of impractical for an artist at my level. But I think Creepy Room would have made a fantastic video, still would. Street Creature, it would be nice to have made a video that literally explained the lyrics. Again, the lyrics are about the alienation of fame and how fame made me feel otherworldly. But I used to drive into Birmingham late at night, 2 or 3 in the morning, and there's a brow of the hill on the M6 where you come over the brow of the hill and you see this space age city called Birmingham. And Street Creature is about coming home to my roots. I'd love to make a video about that. Funny enough, with Castaways, I would make that video in one room. David Bowie kind of did this in Ashes to Ashes when he referred back to Major Tom in an asylum. I would do Castaways in one room and just use that one room as this space that is taking me from planet Earth to colonize into another place and never show you what we expect to see the other end. So this one room is not only our home in space, but it's our prison in space. It's also our intensive care in space. I would love to do that. Druids speak from themselves, but I want all the extras to be naked and painted blue. Angel and Me, again, I think could happen in a single space, but I would want an incredibly large animated angel or CGI angel kind of moving in around me, but it would have to be so tall and so much larger than me. The Pact, yeah, again, I would kind of like to film that on a coastline in Florida because the imagery of the cloud waves breaking is in my head a tidal wave coming towards that specific state. Life in the Trees, yeah, I think it would be, I wouldn't go for a literal interpretation for Life in the Trees. I'd film that in a very busy city like Tokyo or something like that. It would be nature versus concrete. Dawn Chorus, I'd film in a nightclub. And it would be very interesting to film that today because I think the laws of gender now, those kind of barriers are breaking down. And that's Dawn Chorus for me is about a gender query society. Run Wild, Run Free is about my youth in Birmingham and suddenly becoming famous. I would love to make a video for that. And it would be a very human story video about trying to find yourself after you as a person and a personality. Your image is dictated by fame. I would love to do Run Wild, Run Free and Brave New World made. So thank you so much for that question. It was a fabulous question. Now, I have showed you the album already. I'm going to show it you again. Thank you everyone for your brilliant, brilliant questions. I really enjoyed answering them. This is the vinyl. 29th of September, remastered. It's beautiful. And there's a lot of other surprises to come. This is the inner cover you get, which you can frame and put on your wall. And you have beautiful neon pink vinyl. I absolutely adore it. You also get the full lyric sheet. Fantastic. So everyone, thank you so much for your support this year. As I say, this is a new year. It is a new beginning. We are all very, very excited for the rest of the year and for 2024. We are going to go out on a lyric version of Angel and Me so that you can follow the lyrics. I will see you very, very soon. Those who are coming to storm the castle tonight, see you there. And we are up to so many things over the coming month. October is very, very close. We will see you tonight for an upbeat moment and tomorrow for a Sunday lunch. Lots of love from Toyah.
I knock the telephone from the table, and the room starts to purr. I splash the contents from a drawer, a photo, midair stops to twirl. It falls. Why do you always cry when you come to see me? I always die to see you smile. You see, I have a secret. That's why